You will show up for everyone around you, but the moment someone tries to show up for you, you shut it down, you say no, I'm fine, I got it. You deflect the compliment, refuse the help, push back the kindness, and you call it independence. But I want to ask you something. What if it isn't independence at all? What if it is a wound you have been carrying so long it started to feel like a personality trait? Today we're talking about why you struggle to receive love, help, and good things, and what it actually is costing you to keep saying no. When I was 18 years old, I left my parents' home, and the courage it took to do that, and the alienation that followed, set something in motion in me that I carried for most of my adult life. I knew from a young age that I couldn't count on my parents to protect me, and when I chose to leave and they met me with disapproval and walls to keep me out, something in me decided that I would never need anyone again, not a dime, not a helping hand, or a shoulder to cry on. I became fiercely independent. I never wanted to owe anyone anything. Even the idea of an electrical bill or a mortgage unsettled me. The thought of being indebted, even to a bank, felt like something I couldn't breathe inside of. I wanted to be free, untouchable, someone who needed nothing from no one. And for a long time, I thought that was strength. What I didn't see, what took me years to understand, is that there is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from living on an island alone. You build the walls to protect yourself, and then one day you look around and you realize no one can get in. You've done life entirely by yourself, and the independence you were so proud of has quietly become a cage. These last years have asked me to face that head on. And then recently something happened that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. My husband and I were leaving Home Depot when I noticed a man struggling to get some equipment into his car. We got into our truck and I couldn't stop thinking about him. I looked back and he was still struggling. I told my husband maybe we should offer to drive the equipment wherever he needed to go. So we did. We drove across the city to his home. When we got there, the man tried to pay my husband. My husband said no, it was our pleasure, but the man wouldn't have it. A moment later, there was a knock on my window. I rolled it down and he shoved a $100 bill toward me. And like my husband, I said no, but he was persistent. And in that moment, something quietly told me, you both are struggling to receive. So I took the money, I thanked him, and later I thanked the universe for the abundance. Because it wasn't about $100. It was about what I had been saying no to my whole life and finally choosing differently. And this time, it didn't feel so horrible, so threatening to receive. I heard the message and I extended my hand. The first reason we struggle to receive is because somewhere along the way we learned that needing people was dangerous. Maybe someone you depended on let you down. Maybe love was inconsistent. Someone was there one moment and gone the next. Maybe you were the child who figured out early that it was safer to handle things yourself than to ask and be disappointed. And so you became the person who never asks, who always says, I'm fine, who would rather struggle quietly alone than reach out a hand. And the world rewarded you for it, called you strong, capable, called you independent like it was a compliment. But what that conditioning really taught you was this: I cannot trust people with my needs. And what people don't always understand is that the wall doesn't come down when someone loves you. You can be in a relationship, married, partnered, surrounded by people who genuinely want to be close to you, and still be living on your island, still keeping people at arm's length. Because love asks something of you, that the wound was specifically designed to prevent. Love asks you to be seen in your need, to allow someone to hold you, to let them show up for you without immediately pulling away or insisting you're fine. And all of that feels too risky. And when I don't need anyone becomes your mantra, receiving love can feel just as threatening as receiving anything else. Sometimes more so, because love is the thing you wanted most and learned earliest not to trust. And so instead of learning to receive, you learned to refuse. And you got so good at refusing that eventually it stopped feeling like a choice. It just became who you were, the person on the island, managing everything and needing nothing, until the loneliness of that island became too loud to ignore. The second reason is the belief, often buried so deep we don't even recognize it, that receiving creates a debt, that if someone helps you, you owe them, that if someone loves you generously, there will eventually be a cost, that kindness is never really free. And so you say no before they can say yes. You deflect the compliment, refuse the help. You push back the money because owing nothing feels safer than owing something. And sometimes it goes even deeper than that. Sometimes receiving arrives wrapped in grief and what someone left behind. And the guilt of that has its own kind of weight. But here's what I want you to hear. Whether it is $100 from a stranger, help from a friend, or love from someone who simply wants to give to you, receiving is not a transaction. It is not weakness. It is not debt. It is trust. It is allowing. It is saying, I am worth being given to. And there is something else we don't often see. When we refuse to receive, we're not only protecting ourselves, we are robbing the giver of their blessing. Because giving is a gift to the one who gives it. There is a joy in blessing someone else, in being the reason something good landed in their life. And every time we wave that away, we quietly take the joy from them. My husband knew this when he said it was our pleasure. He wasn't just being kind. He was receiving something too. And receiving is your birthright. The soul is teaching you this through your experiences. We are taught that life is hard, that we have to struggle and suffer, that this is just how life works. But it isn't so. When we can start to understand and see that the universe is generous and loving, and that it is our conditioning that makes us cut off the direct flow of abundance, life starts to open up in ways we could never imagine. Trust replaces the fear of indebtedness, the need to struggle alone, and the armor of fierce independence. We start to allow our needs to be met from a place of worthiness. Receiving is something you have to learn. And like anything you were never taught, it starts small and it's uncomfortable. It starts with letting a compliment land without immediately deflecting it, without saying, oh, it was nothing, or you're too kind, or shifting the attention away from you as quickly as possible. It starts with saying thank you and letting that be enough. It starts with asking for help before you are desperate, before you have exhausted yourself trying to handle everything alone, before the weight becomes unbearable. Asking when you simply need, and trusting that needing is not a burden you should apologize for. It starts with noticing the moment you feel the unease rising up and want to say no to the kindness, the offer, the love. And pausing long enough to ask yourself, is this protection or is this a pattern? And when it is a pattern, choosing differently, even when it feels uncomfortable. even when every part of you wants to pull back. It's in learning to remain open just long enough to let something in. And if this is something you struggle with, I created a meditation called the Receiving Mind to help you begin retraining this pattern. And all of this is what that practice builds over time. Not just the capacity to receive, but the quiet, growing belief that you are worth receiving, that good things are allowed to find you, that you don't have to earn the good that comes to you, that the universe is not setting a trap every time something beautiful arrives at your door. You are not learning to need people. You are learning to trust that it is safe. And I will offer you this soul musing to sit with. To receive is guaranteed. It is life's promise to us, like the promise of morning and night. But if we brace for the night, when the morning has come, we miss the blessing the light was holding for us. And as this conversation comes to a close, I want to leave you with these questions to carry with you today. Where does the struggle to receive show up most in your life? Is it with love, with help, with money, with kindness? And what does your deflection tell you about what you believe you deserve? Can you trace it back? Where did you first learn that needing people was unsafe, or that receiving always came with a cost? And what is one small way you can practice receiving this week? It doesn't have to be perfect or grand, just differently than you have before. And before I let you go, if this conversation spoke to something in you, I want to offer you a place to keep going. I created a free bundle called A Guided Return to Unconditional Self-Love, a guided workbook and audio practice to help you return to yourself and begin doing this work more deeply. Consider it my gift to you. And maybe if receiving is hard for you, letting yourself take it is the first small practice. You'll find it linked for you. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Because I truly believe that when we begin healing ourselves, we create more compassion, more understanding, and ultimately a better world for everyone. With so much love, I'll see you in the next one, dear soul.